Winners and losers. I won't start this week because I usually start off. I'll share the light. We'll go to Curtis this time. Actually, I think we started with Curtis last time, but anyway, we'll go to him again. Who were your major winners coming out of week 2?
We'll start off with the Ravens and specifically Lamar. First win over the Chiefs and Patty Mahomes, so got to give him credit there. Been watching a few media outlets say that's like a big step, like a big hump to get over. So hopefully sets him up well for the rest of the season, especially given their team's pretty compromised given injury. Second one, we'll go with the Raiders and Carr. They're 2-0. They're looking elite. They've beat Pitt, who actually looked pretty saucy in the first game of the season against the Bills. And I'm going to be bold here and say Carr is a genuine MVP candidate right now. He's thrown for over 800 yards in the first week. He's up there with the big boys, and I've also seen some stats suggesting that over the last 3 seasons, he's in the category of Mahomes and Rodgers, the only QBs to have less than 10 interceptions and over 4,000 yards in a season. So he is a bowler. And finally, we'll go with the Panthers and Darnold closing as well as the Raiders. They're looking pretty elite. They're 2-0. Darnold's thrown for 26 of 38 for 305 yards, 2 TDs, and Darnold's looking pretty solid and a lot better than he was looking at the Jets.
Yeah, I've actually doubled up on your second and third ones there. I had the Raiders in the playoff prediction episode we did before the season. I actually had them just missing out, I think, and I had the Steelers on, I think, the same amount of wins, so they're going to be wild card rivals for that AFC wild card positions, assuming they somehow like miraculously beat the Chiefs to win the division. So that's a pretty big win over them. The Steelers did have some defensive injuries. I know TJ Watt injured himself in like the first quarter, but to put 26 points up against that defense, it's very impressive. I was really impressed by Henry Ruggs. A bit of a breakout game for him. And I really liked that their attack was a little bit more rounded this week. I think about 4 or 5 blokes had over 3 catches, which is good to see. I hate offenses who just go through one person, and sometimes the Raiders do that because that's not really sustainable in a playoff situation because they'll just lock down that bloke and you're fucked. But yeah, good to know that they can share it around a bit. And yeah, also the Panthers, division rival, and the Sainers. If they won this game in a close one, I probably wouldn't have mentioned them here because I think the Saints just had an awful day on both sides of the footy. But the fact that they absolutely pummeled them, I think it's worth a shout out. And I was looking at their schedule, and it's absolutely outrageous. They don't play a team with a positive record from last season till week 12.
Panthers?
So, yeah. So they played the Dolphins in week 12, and until then, they don't play another team who had a positive record last year. So, I think their overs and unders right now with the betting agencies is about 8.5. I would be sticking some on the overs on that one because
they're stacked everywhere. Everywhere you look, they're stacked.
So that's 11 weeks of playing teams with negative records from last year. Let's say they're already 2-0. Like I could definitely see them going like 8-3, 7-4, something like that. And yeah, to think they're not going to get more than 8.5 wins, I think that would be tough to do. To take a second half of the season capitulation. Obviously, it is only 2 games, so it's a small sample size, but I think it's not a bad shout. And my NFC number 7 in terms of the third wild card had 10 wins as well. So I think they're going to be right in that mix just purely because they've had a pretty easy schedule. And quite frankly, I'm a bit worried for the Texans' anus on Thursday Night Footy this week. Pilchos, who are your winners, mate?
Gonna have to agree with everything you boys have just said because I had Baltimore and Raiders as well.
Yeah, very fair. I think they were the 3 clear winners. Huge monkey off the back for Lamar. Yeah, I'm not coming him doing a handstand into the end zone. Bit of a piss though. Fair play to him. But yeah, 3 definite winners out of that one. The losers, I'll start off with mine. got a bit more abstract here this week with the losers because I was struggling. There weren't too many teams based off my preseason predictions who have really, like their week 2 result really changed my opinion. So I'm going with the position here, and it's just quarterbacks in general. I don't think many quarterbacks had a good weekend. 6 of the starters have come away with injury designations. Some have been downgraded since then. We've already lost Fitz from last week, and 9 QBs had 2 or more turnovers. So it just was not a good one at all, especially for the young quarterbacks. We saw Herbert not have the greatest game in terms of his box score. Joe Burrow had 3 interceptions in 3 plays, and then the rookies like Zach Wilson and Trevor Lawrence had absolute stinkers. So I know they're in shit situations, and I'm not saying they're shit players, but they just didn't play well on the weekend. So yeah, there weren't many quarterbacks coming out of it with a smile on their face, and yeah, that's quite rare because usually we're just frothing all the quarterbacks, but yeah, I don't think too many had a good weekend. Then the only team I will pick on this week is the Miami Dolphins. I think I predicted them to win about 12 matches this year, and I'm okay with them losing to the Bills. I expect the Bills to beat them, but to lose 35-0 is like actually fucked. And they played in the last round of the regular season last year, and they also lost by a similar margin. So especially at home, like it's just not on. I was listening to a Pro Football Focus podcast, and they actually said statistically their O-line had the worst performance ever recorded by any O-line ever. So, well, I assume since they started recording stats, which I'm not sure when that is. So, yeah, that's pretty outrageous. Obviously, Tua got hurt, but even before he left the game injured, like they were doing nothing. I think he got sacked twice and he only had like 4 attempts. So, yeah, Jacoby Brissett came in, struggled, but yeah, not good signs for Miami. I don't like. It's not the end of the world. They beat the Patriots last year, but this is something they've definitely got to get over. Because obviously they play the Bills twice a year, and it's not good to just be getting pumped like this. And then finally, the officials. I think they had a bit of a stinker this weekend. 2 notable calls.
Agree.
The Julio touchdown. First of all, I think this rule's absolute rubbish. So for those who didn't know what happened, the rule is like you can do like the toe tap, so you have to get both feet in. But if you plant your toe and then proceed to like plant the rest of your foot, your heel has to be in as well. Like, so you could you can toe tap and have your toe in, but then if you put your heel down and that's out, it doesn't count as a catch, which I just don't think that makes any sense. Like, if your toes were in the first place, I think you're all good. Anyway, so they claimed that his heel came down the line. They went to the replays, took maybe 4 minutes to review it. It went up as a touchdown. There was absolutely no clear evidence either way. I'll admit you couldn't tell that it was definitely a touchdown or it wasn't. And they said that that was conclusive enough to call it a non-touchdown. So yeah, I don't know. Thankfully, it didn't cost them the game because they came home and took the chockies thanks to the Seattle kicker missing an extra point earlier on the game. But yeah, that was a bit of a stinker. And then also the Chargers-Cowboys game. I have to say the officials really took the fun out of this one. Like, it was still a good game in the end, but there was just so many fouls. It was actually outrageous. I think the Chargers had about 13. They had 2 touchdowns called back, but the bad call was Herbert was running back in, I think it was might have been their last offensive drive. He was running back about 10 yards behind the line of scrimmage, tried to get a throwaway. And you could probably argue it was intentional grounding because the ball was like nowhere near anyone, but they claimed that he got sacked just because he was like moving backwards while throwing it, even though that happens. Like, if you just watch Mahomes, he throws it like 5 times a game moving backwards. But yeah, that was a pretty average call at a crucial point. I don't think it really cost them the game, but I think they let themselves down with some ill discipline. But yeah, that was pretty frustrating. I don't think, and that those 2 calls were like in the space of about 20 minutes as well. So yeah, it wasn't their finest hour for the officials. Pilch, who are your biggest losers, mate?
And obviously the officials robbed the Giants on Thursday night footy
I did
as well.
forget about that one. Yep.
But my 2 losers going to have to say the Saints, purely because their offense, their entire offense just stinks, and just awful loss to the Panthers. And then Vikings, Not necessarily because they played badly, but the kickers missed a 25-yarder to win the game, and they've pretty much just cooked their entire playoff chances based off that one kick. So not good. Not good if you're a Vikings fan.
Yeah, and they've got a tough schedule coming up. And I didn't actually know this, but apparently they have quite an extensive history of bad kicking chokes. So that would not have been fun viewing. It was a shame because of that. We didn't get to see that game on TV here in Australia, but it looked like a really interesting game until the fourth quarter. Both teams sort of just shut the bed. But yeah, Minnesota have not looked the worst in the first two rounds. But yeah, as you said, playoffs are pretty much already ruled out this early in the season for them. Kurt, who are your losers, mate?
I've got a couple of different ones. First one's got to be the Jets and Wilson. Obviously, it was a bit of a stinker for the majority of the rookies this week in the QB area. But he had 4 ints, 0 touchdowns, looked pretty woeful, and got a bit of a, I wouldn't say a ripping or talking to from the coach. But, he said he needs to learn to play some boring football sometimes, which is a bit of a statement, I think. And then finally, I got the Saints and Winston. Winston returned back to his old self, which was a worry for the Saints. He went 11 of 22 and had 2 interceptions while having no touchdowns. So I think if the Saints are going to be good this year, it's going to be up to Winston. So they need to ensure that he's back to throwing TDs and limiting those interceptions.
Yeah, I just don't know what happened in that game, to be honest. Like, after watching them in week one, that's just crazy. I know the Panthers' defense played really, really well, but yeah, the Saints' O-line was cooked. I think Kamara had about 8 yards from 5 carries or 5 yards from 8 carries, something like that. Yeah, they just couldn't move anything, the Saints. But yeah, that's a bit disappointing. They've got a massive matchup this week against the Patriots, which will be a big clash of arguably the 2 best coaches in the competition. Awards time. Time to crown some champions of week 2. I'll let Pilcher run us off here, mate. Who are your award winners for the week?
So we're doing AFC and NFC offensive players of the week.
Yep.
Yep. So I've gone Derrick Henry and Aaron Jones, just both enormous games. Jones 4 touchdowns, 3 of them receiving touchdowns, which was quite interesting. And then Henry, just his usual self, pretty much put the entire team on his shoulders. No way they would have got even close to the Seahawks without him. And then my offensive rookie of the week, I've given it to Rondale Moore, who looks like an absolute beast of a receiver for the Cardinals. And looks like Kyler Murray really likes him as well.
Yeah, I'll just jump in because I have him as well. I'll give you some information about who he is. So he's 5'7", automatically not the ideal height to be a receiver, but he's absolutely rapid. 2nd round pick. Then I did some background research. He made a few publications, All-American College Team in 2018. This was, I think, his first year in college football. He actually had the most receptions in the whole of college football. And this was his first year of college football. He had about 114 receptions. And I looked at the kind of people who've cracked 100 since 2017, and they include Jefferson, Pittman, Gallup, and Devontae Smith. So he's in good company there. Since then, in college, he only played 7 games because of injury, and then last year he opted out because of COVID. So in the 2nd round, he could be an absolute steal for Arizona. He had 114 yards, including a 77-yard TD. He also scored another touchdown that got brought back off a little shovel play. So he looks like a pretty interesting weapon that Arizona can use. But yeah, I thought I'd just provide a bit of info on that. GM, Kurt, who are your award winners?
AFC Play of the Week had me man Carr, as I said before, serious MVP convo, and I think he's showing that he actually is one of the elite QBs in the comp, despite being on what in the past has been a pretty average team with a dog shit defense. So I think he is showing some prospects there, returning to that MVP form of a few years ago. when he was in the conversation. NFC Player of the Week, I had myself Kyler Murray, had 400 yards, 3 TDs, 2 ints, and also had a rushing TD. So absolute bowler, being a big play on the fantasy as well. And for Offensive Rookie of the Week, I had myself Mack Jones. He had a pretty boring game, but he kind of did it in that Patriots way where he didn't turn the footy over, had 22 of 30 completions, and had 186 yards. So I think he deserves a bit of credit there, and that's his first win in the NFL.
Yeah, 100%. I don't know why I just remember this. I heard this on a podcast today because of the hurricane that went through New Orleans. The Saints have been on the road for like 5 weeks, and they were saying that was a big factor behind the weekend's capitulation. But yeah, Mac Jones could tear them a new one on the weekend. We'll see. My award winners, the NFC, I had Cooper Kupp, 163 yards from 9 catches, 2 touchdowns, a huge reason. Probably the difference really between the Rams and the Colts. Obviously, Wentz went down late. That probably didn't help the Colts' chances, but already looks like him and Stafford are boys from way back. Another one who I thought deserved to mention was Tony Pollard. I think without him, the Chargers win that game. He had 109 yards from 13 carries, including a touchdown, 31 yards from 3 catches. He looks insane and looks like it's almost going to be a bit of a timeshare there because Pollard's just that good when he gets involved. Then in the AFC, obviously Derrick Henry, just having 35 carries alone is ridiculous, but to have 5.2 yards per carry on those, that volume is insane. Also had 55 yards in the air, which is not bad for someone who apparently can't catch the ball. 3 touchdowns as well. And yeah, as Pilch said, just guided the boys home. I have to say, I didn't bag him out, but I was saying the Titans were running the ball too much. But I obviously forgot that he's an absolute fourth quarter beast when it comes to just wearing them down. And him and Tanner's put on a bit of a show in overtime and the last quarter in terms of those final drives. They just couldn't make an error really. And then defensive player of the week, I went with the rookie defensive end actually, Gregory Russo. Never heard of the bloke in my life. Obviously he's a rookie, but he was part of the Buffalo front that destroyed the Miami O-line. So I thought a Buffalo man deserved it. He had 2 sacks and 2 tackles for a loss. So yeah, pretty impressive there. And also shout out to Mike Edwards, who had 2 pick sixes for Tampa in the space of about 3 minutes. Even though the second one was pretty dodgy because someone just blocked the pass and it just flew up in the air and he just came and caught it and ran it in. But yeah, still pretty impressive to do that.
It's a miracle! Oh yeah! What about that one? No! Unbelievable! Balotelli, Aguero! Crowd cheers. Here's Siddle.